Hello, welcome back. I'm here to talk about, honestly, something that I wanted to talk about for a while. These notes are kind of old, so I'm reading them for the first time in a few, actually, months. But I want to talk about something that all of the girlies know about. It's in every meme we see now. Not every meme. It's in a lot of memes, a lot of TikToks. It's everywhere in social discourse. We're talking about it casually. We're talking about yearning and longing. The reason we're talking about yearning and longing is because these are very common experiences. Things like desiring connection. That's a really common use of longing. Longing for another person, longing for an experience, longing for something that you don't currently have, a life purpose, longing for meaning, longing for something, an area of your life that may otherwise seem hollow, vacant, etc., etc. So I want to talk about this in the context of emotional hunger, because when we're hungry, we have this kind of sense of lacking food, right? And when we talk about emotional hunger, it's kind of looking for this, it's the pursuit of satiating that feeling. When we're talking about emotional hunger, it could be something along the lines of like, I feel like I need validation. And it's never this conscious, first of all, it's never this conscious, but you could say, I need validation. So now you're seeking it out in different means and mechanisms that aren't necessarily healthy or unhealthy or progressive or regressive or any of these things. They might just be. Whether we talk about it through the metaphor of food or we talk about it through the metaphor of medicine, we're seeking resolution to the feeling. So oftentimes when we have emotional hunger or something where we seek remedy, that is often achieved in a number of ways. And I'm not even going to go through them. There's so many different ways we can talk about them in healthy and progressive ways, like seeking support from your networks, whether that is through accredited mental health professionals or through your friends and family, or both, better yet, whether it's through exploration, self-exploration, whether it's through trying new things, putting yourself out there, or it's through being closed off or avoidant, or these things. Like, there are different mechanisms that we use, that our brain uses, maybe consciously or unconsciously, to cope with this kind of emotional hunger. When we're talking about yearning or longing, typically we're not talking about resolution, right? We're not talking about something that can be resolved or remedied, though we will find ways to attempt, right? So this emotional longing, this emotional yearning, especially in an existential context, is usually something that is addressed incorrectly or cannot be addressed at all, or we don't even try to address it because we know we can't. So even when we're talking about longing for a person, often it's because that person isn't available, either physically, emotionally, for whatever reason. When we experience this kind of emotional longing for a connection of or a person, it's because it's not already there. And so that point of lack is incredibly important when we're talking about yearning, longing, because that's where it's rooted in. Emotional hunger, again, that lack, you need something to satiate. It requires a something, the thing, the subject of your yearning, the subject of what you're craving, the subject of your desire is absent presently. We're talking about appetite, we're talking about spiritual appetite, we're talking about emotional appetite, we're talking about an existential appetite, we're talking about all of these different things that are really referring to the longing or seeking after something. When you're hungry for something, it's not that you were actually looking to like eat per se, but that there is a pursuit of solution, or or we have an idea of what it is that we can resolve, but maybe not, again, so consciously or so clearly. When we talk about appetite more in like our common discourse, we're talking about eating, right? But it's other basic satisfactions that we have, right? It's not just associated with the body or our physicality. It's not just associated with like thirst. It's not so literal sometimes. Sometimes it is this perceivably cosmic kind of pursuit, this hollowness that we sense, this lack of something. In like a religious context, we might say that like the appetite is for a stronger connection to the like our source, or whatever. There is just this subject. So the subject is an important kind of a part of this. Okay, so it's really important also that we recognize that when we're talking about this yearning, this longing, all these things, and we're talking about an identifiable subject, we're not talking per se about like, okay, if I go with the food metaphor, okay, I'm like really craving pizza, like I want pizza, and I'm going to remedy that through pizza. Often it's, we have a sense of its kind of general shape, but not what it is. So we're longing for connection, okay, but we don't necessarily know what kind of connection, or the subject of that connection per se, but we understand that there is like this desire for connection. when we're talking about desire, the reason I'm instead choosing to use the word yearning or longing is because we're talking about what is absent. Because desire, we can desire all sorts of things. I can desire that this room is exactly as it is always, and it involves a sense of preservation. I can have a sense of like I can grip onto or dig my teeth into something that is already within the realm of my access or ability, or even within the room with me. I could say that like I have this coffee that is almost done, and my desire would be that this is an infinite cup. God, would that be wonderful? But it's not. And so, but my desire in that situation is not about lack per se. It's a lack of the ability to move around the realities of impermanence and the reality is that if I consume this, it does get more and more empty. But we're not necessarily talking about something being absent. We are when we're talking about longing, and when we're talking about longing and yearning, we are usually talking about something that isn't there. So here's what I kind of want to say about this. The reason I'm thinking about this is because I'm thinking about the concept of the hungry ghost. If you're familiar with Eastern philosophy or religions at all, Buddhism, Hinduism, Chinese folklore all have kind of these hungry ghosts, which are these insatiable supernatural beings. Usually they have like a big distended belly. In Buddhism, it's an eventual outcome of reincarnation. If you spend your life in desire, then you may be incarnated as a hungry ghost. The realm of the hungry ghost is one of the 8 spheres. Okay, I lied. It's one of the 6 spheres of existence within the cycle of samsara. So really, like the realm of the hungry ghost is just one of the hell realms. It's just one of in the way that it's conceptualized. It's just one of them, and so it's a possible incarnation is these spiritual beings, or these supernatural beings. What these things are, they're conceptualized by humans, regardless of the legitimacy and actuality of the fabric of our existence, which I have absolutely no ability to lay claim to. But the way that humans talk about this, which is the only way that we know of any of this, is that they're depicted with like these tiny throats and huge bellies. So really, really symbolic depictions, right? And it goes with that yearning and longing because you're hungry. You have these bellies that need to be filled, but your throat is so small. It's a very, very literal kind of, we can see how that applies without kind of having to deal with abstractions and deal with what the fuck are we talking about. It's like when we know basic things like how humans eat, we can understand that like a small throat and a big belly, math's not mathing here. And this is one of the most undesirable of the realms. It's the lowest realm. Theoretically, as a hungry ghost, it's the result allegedly from like greed, anger, ignorance, really falling into the cycle of desire in a way that is perverse for yourself and also mankind. And I'm not going to talk about any of that as if any of it's real. And it's not to shade any Eastern religion or any belief systems around that. I'm using this to represent a symbol of the topic I'm talking about and not an actuality, simply because I don't believe in a universe for my own personal reasons that condemns your your existence to any form of punishment. And you can be the worst person in the world. Unfortunately, the worst people in the world, I don't believe that the universe is built to punish them. That's my own personal belief. That's how I cope with reality, because it's my result to a Christian upbringing, a Catholic upbringing. That's how I've coped, is by deciding actually sin is not punished. Actually, we live in a loving, kind universe. What I will say about yearning and longing in this context is not going to talk about punishment. It's not going to talk about any form of punitive pattern of the universe, of cosmic relevance. I'm not going to do it. It's not helpful. It's not helpful for people like me. And it's not helpful for people who are already down on themselves, who believe that they have some sort of karmic debt to pay. You don't. You're a human being. You're born to be a human being. That's all we know so far. Let's stick with that for now, just for now. Let's be the agnostics of the group, regardless of our other religious affiliations or interests. Let's talk about what we know. And we know the human experience of yearning. We know the human experience of longing. We know what hunger looks like, feels like. We know what lack. This is what a lot of Eastern religions or just Eastern thought will associate with things like addiction and desire, right? The human tendency to try to fill inner emptiness with something. Again, we could talk about medicine. When we're talking about desire, still we're talking about it in a segmented way. We're talking about longing, yearning for the absent. This is is what Immanuel Kant said. Kant said that it's not just the things that we have, like my coffee, it's the things that we want as well. And we can use things like Western philosophers like Schopenhauer, who believe that desire is an abundant and ever, occurring experience for humanity, and that satisfaction itself is fleeting, that tiny throat, and that leads us to a perpetual state of wanting. We can also lean on Eastern thought like Buddhism, where there is the belief that desire or a dissatisfaction with impermanence, which is another way, again, that coffee is a source of suffering. So desire in that way and not always can be a source of suffering. How are we feeling, folks? And I want to talk a little bit about how it manifests. When it manifests, at least for me, it can manifest as loneliness. It can manifest as curiosity. So it's not always bad, right? We understand perceivable lack. We're smart animals for the most part. We try to be, and we have a sense that this can be explored. So they're not always something that, whatever. And also our engagement with lack, our engagement with yearning and longing can also have really fruitful results. For example, it could be through creativity. We can create things out of these feelings. So yeah, I just really want to express that, when I'm talking about yearning, longing, and desire, and I talk about these hungry ghosts, everything sounds scary and hard and bad, and it's not, right? Everything is more nuanced than we want it to be, and also more simple. I will not elaborate. And so we have these kind of examples all throughout history, all throughout our own communities, all throughout ourselves, where we have longing and yearning that appears through this desire of something that is currently at a lack, an absent. It's not there. Some of the greatest ideas, the inventions, the opportunities through yearning and longing are also an outcome that is possible. But I also do want to talk about that more uncomfortable, maybe less desirable side, because it's also a great point of discomfort for humans, in general. The way that can show up is, it can show up in that, let's say loneliness, or let's say we want purpose in life, we want an experience that we can point to and say, I want that, and that will make my life better, and everything in my spirit is blah, blah, blah. We have this this knowing that we don't have it, and B, that we want it. We maybe don't know what it would be like to have it. Maybe we've had it before and we do. That doesn't matter, right? But we have an idea, or we have no fucking idea. And we just sense an inner hollowness. We just sense, when I was younger and I was really struggling, I used to call it a black hole in my stomach. And it was just this idea that that insatiability, that what can I do to fix this? What can I do to fix this? And it can be so many different things, helpful or unhelpful medicine. It can be good medicine. It can be bad medicine. Like Bon Jovi said, it could be anything. It could be anything. And we live our lives in pursuit of that. And it comes down to these smallest things. And that's why nothing you can take personally, also, by the way, because the things that are said are always said out of a desire to heal ourselves. Even if you don't think it, the way that you talk to people, the way that you treat people, the way that you say things, when someone is talking down on you, they're trying to heal themselves. They just don't know how. And they're not using the tools in their tool belt in the right way. They're holding their screwdriver backwards. Their hammer's going left and right instead of up and down. That's the reality. It's not people are fundamentally good. People are fundamentally good because if they knew what they were doing, they would change it. If they knew truly on to the core, they would change it. But we don't. And that's one of the greatest difficulties of humanity, is that we don't understand true consequences or motivations behind the things that we do and the things that happen to us. That's what makes everything so fucking hard. Yeah, it's so awesome. We don't know what that is, but it is there. And we know that there's mysteries that can, you can pull at the thread of, and you can make discoveries. And again, that curiosity piece, but we don't know. And so we have this yearning and longing, and it will show up. And we need to recognize them when they do. When they show up, is it some need that's being unmet that could be met in a different way? Is there a need that maybe we don't know that we have? We need to use a little bit of a curiosity mindset. What I like to say is a beginner's mindset. I like to pretend I was born yesterday. What are we looking at? What is this? Oh my God, this is awesome. I've never felt this before. Or you can lean on the knowledge that you do have, that you have had because you have done this before. Really looking at things without judgment is the key to deal with emotional and existential yearning and longing and hunger. What is it that I really, really want? Because oftentimes it's not that tough what it is that we're looking for. Sometimes it's affirmation, sometimes it's a sense of stability or safety, or just basically going down to those physical kind of satisfactions of, I want to make sure that I have food on the table, and I want to make sure that I have a roof above my head. And that comes down to just those basic survival needs. So yeah, we're gonna look at those feelings with non-judgment. And I love that they're in the common kind of conversation, especially among young women, where this feeling that maybe would be unattractive to feel is just something that is so common that it can create hilarious memes that build connection among people, that make people feel like, oh my god, other people go through this too, awesome. And yeah, I think the second piece, and there isn't really too much to say about this, but it's really just looking at the present moment opportunities. So when you're doing you're glancing at this thing and you're like, okay, it's like, if we're gonna go with the food metaphor, it's like when you're like looking for something to eat and you're like, look at your fridge, and then you go open your fridge, and then you walk away, and then you go back and you open your fridge and you look again and you're like, still the exact same. All right, so, and then you keep wanting and wanting and wanting, and you're like, okay, but I actually only have these things in my fridge. So what do I actually do about this? Let's be realistic. Am I gonna eat some weird fucking shit? Probably. Or maybe I got $20 to burn and I can go get some food for dinner. Like we don't like we need to look at what tools are in our arsenal through that non-judgment. If we're like, why the fuck did I buy these pickled eggs? I don't know why I thought of that. Why the fuck did I buy these pickled eggs? Yuck. Why the fuck did I buy them? Oh my god, that's not helpful. Okay, well, you have them. Do we eat them? Or do we figure out that we have that $20? Or do we figure out that there's maybe something we can make with pickled eggs? But yeah, yearning and longing builds connection, it builds growth, it provides us this emotional opportunity to answering our own needs and answering our own wants, and having this kind of really great opportunity to be creative about it, or to just really ride out the human experience. There's nothing more destabilizing for a difficult emotion than recognizing that this is just a feeling. And when you view, it's like a meditation thing, when you view your thoughts as like leaves on the river and they pass by you and they're just going to go, your feelings are the same. You view it like that and you kind of destabilize its truth, where you go, no, this is just a feeling, it's not truth, even though our bodies are like detecting it as truth because that's a survival thing, it's an adaptation that humans have had. It's been beneficial for evolution that we develop these feelings. I did a presentation, can I just say, I did a presentation when I was 11 or 12, and they were like, okay, you need to just like explain something to the class. And I chose, why do humans have emotions? Hey, someone should have called my parents. Hey, why is she asking that? She's 11. The point is that we do, this is an evolutionary thing. We do have these feelings, these thoughts, and these experiences detected as truth because they saved our lives for most of history. The reason we exist now is because we had fear, and because we had all of these wonderful things that we feel, the full depth of the emotion, the sadness, the whatever. We have these things because of the complex reactions that we have to our complex world. You can lean into the feeling, allow it to sit with you and have that experience, and then bye, and then ride it out. Sometimes it's nice to not shove these feelings aside, but recognize them for what they are and ride it out. It's part of being human, baby. And honestly, like, the best part about being human is experiencing all of it, not just like picking. You can't just like cherry pick, or then you get all complicated and then you don't actually really get to enjoy the humanness that we're kind of allowed. So that's yearning and longing, baby, and it is here to stay. So yeah, like, subscribe, stick around, watch some other videos, find me on Instagram, find me on TikTok. That's all mainly my art stuff. If you like the way that I talk about stuff, find my written words. That's on Substack. Check out my Substack, subscribe to that. That's relatively new, so I'm still building that just as much as this. So yeah, stick around. Thanks for watching. Bye.